Let's call the meeting back to order. We're going to move on to agenda item number 10, Commission Policy number 50, duck stamp procedures, second reading. Teresa Moyola.
Good afternoon. For the record, Teresa Moyola, Conservation Education Division Administrator. You have before you Commission Policy number 50, the duck stamp procedure for second reading. The updates come from the March 21st first reading of the Policy 50 changes, where the Commission made no changes to the recommendation that came out of the duck stamp committee. So that was available for your review in the support materials. It reads exactly as it did upon first reading. So there are no additional changes from that time.
Okay, any questions? We'll go to public comment. Any public comment on this in Elko? Seeing none, any public comment in Las Vegas?
No comment.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment in Reno on agenda item number 10? Seeing none, any questions from the commission? All right.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve Commission Policy number 50, duck stamp procedures as presented by the department.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. Commissioner Young, it was unanimous with Commissioner Young not voting on that. We're going to move on to item 11, duck stamp contest sponsor. Teresa Moyola.
For the record, Teresa Moyola, Conservation Education Division Administrator. Per Policy 50, duck stamp procedure, the department sent a letter in late January to potential sponsoring organizations seeking a duck stamp sponsor for the 2015-16 and the 2016-17 Nevada Duck Stamp Art Contest years. We received one response to that solicitation from the Nevada Waterfowl Association. Their letter is included in your support material.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, do we have any public comment in Las Vegas?
No comment, Chairman.
Any public comment in Elko?
No comment in Elko, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment in Reno? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner McNitch.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we designate Nevada Waterfowl Association as a sponsor for the upcoming duck stamp, as a sponsoring organization for the duck stamp contest.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner McNitch, second by Commissioner Wallace. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passed unanimous. We're going to move on to number 12, Commission Meeting Video Conferencing. Deputy Director Patrick Cates.
Thank you. For the record, Patrick Cates. The video conferencing, I want to give you a little bit of overview of our perception as a department of how it's worked so far and maybe some of the challenges that we have going forward before I get to our request for an action item for you related to that. So the last meeting we had in March was the first time that we have video conferenced a commission meeting right here in this room. Just like we're doing today, video conference to Great Basin College and the College of Southern Nevada. Our perception is it was a great success. It seems to be working well. Haven't heard too many issues from the public or commission members about how that has worked. I know it's been a long standing goal of ours in the commission to offer video conferencing. And we were able to do it at really minimal cost. We're charged really a token charge by TMCC to use this room. We're very grateful to them for hosting this. saved us a lot of money. You may recall we had a little less than $80,000 budgeted for video conferencing, and the contractor we were working with recommended a system that was $250,000 to be able to support full commission meetings in a robust manner in our own facilities where we really didn't have rooms or facilities even large enough, even with the equipment. Some of the things that we have learned that may be potential issues in the future, there is a little bit more coordination and staffing challenges with this setup. We do have to have staff attend remote locations, which we've never had to do before. The colleges are in control of the facilities and setup. They've been very cooperative, but the room availability is subject to the school schedules. There is always some potential that we could be bumped. There are limited operating hours at the colleges. There's some potential that staffing outside of regular semesters could become an issue at some point in time. So far it hasn't, but we're certainly dependent on their good grace and availability of their staff to continue to have these meetings at this venue, not just here, but the other schools as well. Staffing on Saturdays, that's something that could potentially become an issue in particular, especially when school's not in session. But we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it. We are still struggling with the back-end video management. Even in the old meetings, we had our staff, physically recording the meetings with a camcorder, and we had to do a lot of manipulation to those videos and formatting and uploading. That hasn't changed. In fact, it's become a little bit more labor intensive for us. The video that we get from the university isn't indexed at all, so we have to take it from scratch and format it and index it, whereas before we could kind of start and stop the video and kind of index it as we went. It was a little bit easier, but we still are using I guess a kind of a bootstrap kind of process of manually formatting these videos and uploading them to YouTube, which is a little bit cumbersome, but it's not a whole lot different than what we're doing, but there's still a lot of back-end time, staff time involved in that. Commission meetings based outside of Reno are potentially a significant problem. The university university system facilities outside of TMCC are limited in size and availability. I think in Clark County, I think we can probably find rooms that are big enough. We've done a little bit of exploration, haven't really seen what rooms would work, but most of the facilities the university has for video conferencing are really set up for classrooms and fairly small conference rooms. I think outside of the two metro areas, it's probably going to be nearly impossible to find a venue where the commission themselves can come that would be big enough. I'm not sure about Great Basin. Like I said, probably down in the Vegas area it would be a little bit easier. Just as an example, we have the Tonopah meeting scheduled in June. There is one facility that the university system has for video conferencing in Tonopah, and it is a small classroom that seats 12 people. So there's no way it could host a commission. It could be used as a satellite office, but you could never have the commission there and expect to video conference it. And we've also explored the possibility of connecting the university system to other venues. We have used county commission chambers in the past. All the counties that we've spoken to do not do video conferencing, will not patch their systems into the university or anyone else's video conferencing system. So being able to video conference in a rural setting seems to be a problem that we have not been able to solve. If we do continue to have meetings in rural areas that we can't video conference, then we have a lot of issues with consistency of process and the need to have staff travel and do it in the old manner and then not be able to video conference, which I think we've now sort of set the expectation that we'll video conference our meetings. Another challenge that we have related to this are committees. Committees of the commission, particularly in the past year, use of committees has expanded exponentially, particularly with the Bear Committee and the Trapping Committee. I think we all understand why that is a necessity because of those issues and the public interest and direction from the legislature for that. But it does present some pretty significant challenges for us as staff in particular, as well as people who are chairing and participating in those committees. To put it in perspective, we have had 24 committee meetings since the start of the fiscal year in July. We are on course to have more than 30 committee meetings this fiscal year, far more than we have historically had. Having these separate committee meetings each meeting has its own administrative burden of having to produce agendas, publicly notice those agendas, prepare the minutes. There is roughly, in talking to staff, 20 to 40 hours of clerical support time for each one of those meetings. So you multiply that by 30, and that's a lot of time just for the clerical support. And that's not the time for the meeting itself, nor the time traveling to venues. That's just preparing all the material and everything that goes along that. Sometimes there's delays in getting approval of minutes because some committees don't meet very frequently. Sometimes it takes up to a year before minutes get approved, and members have even gone off committees because some of them don't meet very frequently. Trying to staff committees under those circumstances with video conferencing on top of it, I think would be an untenable burden to be able to do that. Also, trying to deal with all of the public notices for all these various committees, I think it's increasing risks of open meeting law violations. There certainly is a lot more public scrutiny of the process. And we have basically divisional staff providing support to those committees, and it's just an increased risk of error. And we heard earlier today about a Bear Committee meeting that was canceled because of the way it was noticed. Excuse me. If we don't video conference the committee meetings, then we're not providing as much public participation as we would with the whole commission meeting that we're doing now. This year is turning out to be the most expensive year for the commission, mostly because of the committees. Travel costs for committees. We have people on committees that aren't members of the commission. Some of them aren't even members of CAPS. They're all entitled to travel cost reimbursements. I'm not saying the commission shouldn't consider that work, but spreading it out over 30 some odd committees in a single year is very difficult. And it would be, as I said, probably untenable to be able to video conference all of those meetings. And also, part of the volume of those meetings has been a desire to have them presented in different parts of the state. I know the Bear Committee and Trapping Committee have had meetings in different venues around the state to try to solicit input. Some potential solutions for those dilemmas, for those challenges that I would ask you to consider would be, first of all, that we consider basing most of the commission meetings in Reno and video conference them in Elko and Vegas, just like we're doing today. As I said, we can probably find venues in Vegas to be able to hold a meeting down there, but in the rural areas, I don't see how we can provide this kind of setting with video conferencing. As a potential backup, should we ever run into issues with the university system and using their facilities, we could potentially use the legislature's facilities as well. Other than the 120 days of session, they have pretty robust facilities that we may be able to use. But again, they're based in Carson City and have some facilities in Vegas and less so in the rest of the state. I would suggest that you consider, if not stopping using committees entirely, at least dramatically reduce their use to those issues that maybe don't have as much public interest, and have the commission conduct that business as a whole commission, particularly when there's a lot of public interest. That may require being more selective in what is put on agendas so that you can get through meetings. If there is a need, and I realize how big things like barriers and trapping, those issues in particular are, if there is a need to have more time dedicated to them, it would be certainly a more efficient way to address those issues to add an additional day to commission meetings, if necessary, rather than delegate it to a committee. Also, by statute, the commission can have up to 9 meetings per year, and we normally only have 7. So you could have more meetings, but if you have them as a commission, we already have a system set up. We already have staff to support the commission. If you're going to consider bears or trapping, it's all on one agenda. There's one public notice process, one set of minutes, and not duplicative. Because like I said, every single committee has its own administrative, public notice, minutes, that kind of process. If with that was still not deemed to be sufficient for public participation, something else that I think we could easily set up, well, I shouldn't say easily, we'd have to think about it a little bit, but it wouldn't be difficult to set up, would be if we posted, just say hypothetically, we posted the agenda for a commission meeting, put the material out there 30 days in advance, which is roughly what we shoot for, and getting support material out to the cabs. If we put that stuff online, I think we could make some changes to our website so that people could log in, make comments on those items, make it so that the commissioners could log in and view those comments, so that you could get as much public input as possible in advance of the commission meeting itself. And that might be a more streamlined way to take the public comment than having a committee do it and having 7.5 hours of public comment, as we heard about earlier today. I know that there is some desire and value to traveling to the rural areas. If the commission wanted to continue to do that, if you accepted doing some of these other changes, one possibility that we could do is perhaps have maybe once a year or something, have the commission travel to rural areas and maybe have something like a town hall meeting where there's no action item taken. Perhaps you could tour some sites. You could meet the public in those rural areas and take input. And I think as long as you're not taking action items, we could probably do that in a fairly streamlined fashion, and there would probably be less anxiety in the public about whether or not they could provide input to things that you're going to be making decisions about. I think some of the benefits of doing some of these things, I think it would effectively use video conferencing and the technology that we have available through the internet to really to solicit as much public input as we have now, and I think probably even more. It would minimize mobilization costs for meetings, travel costs for staff, for the commissioners and the public. It would require only 7 to 9 sets of agendas, public postings, minutes, etc., using existing resources, manageable for staff, commissioners, minimize travel, increase public participation. I don't ask you to take action on all of that today. I just throw it out there for your consideration, that maybe we reconsider how we can achieve some of those goals and still maximize the use of the video conferencing that we're using now. What I ask of you today is just consideration, looking at the calendar. We have some meetings coming up. We have the Tonopah meeting scheduled in June, and I think it's pretty late to consider changing that. My suggestion for Tonopah is that we just move forward, hold that meeting. As we've always held our meetings, we would not be able to video conference it. because there's not facilities in Tonopah that can support that. But after that, we have in August 8th and 9th, we have a meeting scheduled in Fallon. Next year, June 19th and 20th, we have a meeting scheduled for Eureka. August 7th and 8th of next year, we have another meeting scheduled in Fallon. Specifically, what I would ask you to consider today is changing the commission schedule for those 3 meetings to Reno so that we can use these facilities to video conferencing rather than traveling to those locations. And that's all I have. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I have, I mean, maybe this is for the day. Can commission members, since we're gonna have all the meetings in Reno going forward, in Las Vegas commissioners, can we attend the meeting and participate as a commissioner from Las Vegas via video conference? Which would seem to make more fiscal sense and certainly save those of us a lot of time since NDOW is based in Reno. And 2/3 of the population lives in Las Vegas.
May it please the Commission, Mr. Chairman, Harry Ward, Deputy Attorney General, for the record. I see no problem with that. The other entities that I did work for or was assigned to, that's what they would do. And likewise, you would even sometimes have a DAG in a different location. If the main meeting was, let's say, in Vegas, I would participate either in Carson City or wherever. So I see that not being a problem.
Well, with the
As long as it's properly noticed.
We'd certainly save some more money by doing that, so,
Other entities do that.
okay, thank you.
Yes, Commissioner.
Can I ask a question about, I understand the desire to have a good chunk of the meetings in Reno, in other words, the ones that were in the outlying areas, and I will say this, that I appreciate the fact that most of the commissioners have to travel long distances to get to either Reno or Las Vegas. So I'm not going to complain about the times that I go out to the outlying areas, which are once or twice a year. However, my frustration is I go out there and I spend the whole 2 days in meetings. I don't see anything. So I'm not convinced that I'm really accomplishing anything because I don't have time to look at some of the problem areas. So it makes more sense to allow more people to participate via video conferencing, because in truth, you are going to allow a lot of those people to go someplace where there is a video conference so that they can actually participate, even though the meeting may not be close to them. I'm just wondering if, they should all be in Reno. I mean, I guess that's my question, if we couldn't try to do something in have maybe another meeting or 2 in Las Vegas, because I think that the video conferencing capabilities are there. Your point is that here it's pretty easy to set up because you've already got this set up. Most of your staff is located here. I understand that, but I think there are a lot more video conferencing facilities probably in Las Vegas than there might be someplace else. I'm just asking that question. What kind of problems would that create?
For the record, Patrick Cates, although we haven't located through the university system exactly what venue we could use in Vegas, I'm pretty confident that they have facilities that would accommodate us. I'm not asking you to consider changing any of the currently scheduled Vegas meetings. We'll have to nail down where we can have those meetings. Certainly there's enough resources down in the biggest city in the state that we ought to be able to accommodate that. It does increase cost to the department because most of the people that staff these meetings are headquarters staff that have to travel down to Vegas. It is, for the commission itself, it's a wash. We've got roughly half the commissioners up north and roughly half down south. So the costs are a wash in terms of travel. It's just a question of which ones have to travel in which directions. But it certainly costs us a lot more to mobilize for a meeting in Las Vegas. But it's the largest population center in the state, and I'm not proposing that we stop doing that.
I'm going to chime in here, and it really doesn't change anything for me because my last commission meeting's in Tonopah and that meeting's not changing. So that's really not changing a thing for me. But, to be honest with you, I see a huge downside to video conferencing. I see an upside when we're in Reno and Las Vegas, but there is a tremendous downside. Half of what I get out of these commission meetings as a commissioner is interaction I get in that hallway, interaction I get at dinner, interaction I get before meetings, after meetings. I would not know the people in Las Vegas if I relied on that TV monitor. I think it's an injustice to the rural counties and to the citizens of Las Vegas and Reno to be doing video conferencing or relying on video conferencing alone. I think it's going backwards. We're trying to do video conferencing to get maximum participation, and in my mind, we're going backwards. That's just my thought. I think that we still need to visit the rurals on a regular basis. They deserve it. They're citizens of the state of Nevada too. We have a process that's been working for years. Like I said, I've met people all over the state that I wouldn't have met, and had conversations all over the state that I wouldn't have had that are pertinent to what I'm doing as a wildlife commissioner if I was relying on that TV monitor. Tom Barnes is sitting in Elko right now, and I haven't had a conversation with all day. But if he was standing here, I probably would have. So I disagree with relying on video conferencing to do a job as a commissioner. Mr. Wall, Commissioner Wallace.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I couldn't agree more. And at the same time, I appreciate the public comment that we're getting in Vegas and we're getting in Elko. But right now, we're not getting public comment from Fallon, from Tonopah, from Ely, from places like that, that when we go to that place, we can take that public comment. And chances are, in the audience at the commission meeting, we're gonna have more than 4 people that we have in 2 locations on a video conference locations right now. So when we go to Tonopah, we're gonna have more than 4 people sitting in the audience that aren't here today that don't have the opportunity to do video conference because it's only in 2 locations. So to me, I don't think by going to the rural areas that we're losing any public comment, because the few that we're losing that are on video conference today, we can pick up with people that are in those locations. And that's kind of the point, is to move around the state, is to get the public input from the people around the state, not just Las Vegas, Elko, and Reno. And if it has to do with costs on committees, maybe a suggestion is that when we go to Fallon, Tonopah, Eureka, Ely, places like that, maybe we don't have committee meetings in those locations. Maybe the committee meetings, we keep them reserved for Reno and Las Vegas, or wherever. Maybe that will help on the cost of travel for staff. I don't know how else to do it, but I feel pretty strongly that we need to be in the rural locations of Nevada. I mean, there's not a whole lot of us out there, but it is a part of Nevada.
I'm looking on this commission right here. We've got Eureka, Tuscarora, Fish Lake Valley. You've got Rootsville, Jeremy's Gardnerville. I mean,
I was born in Yerington.
and I may have lived in Reno for the past 32 years, but I'm a Tonopah kid at heart, so this dog doesn't hunt for me. That's it. But like I said, I really don't have a say in it because I'm not only the one having a staff or attend or do anything in those commission meetings. It's just my 2 cents. Commissioner McNinch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I completely agree. At one of the recent meetings here, I gave a report on WAFWA in Arizona. They had gone down a similar path where they tried to centralize their meetings, and their biggest challenge now is to reconnect with the rest of their state. They felt like they lost contact. They're struggling to get it back. They're getting out there. They're trying to reschedule their meetings and get back out into the rurals a little bit that they have and try to reestablish that. And they've said that it sounds real simple and easy to reconnect, and he said it hasn't been. They've been, the person that reported it's been a challenge to them. So I am concerned about that. And I hear Commissioner Lane, couldn't agree with you more. This commission used to take additional time, and we used to go out and take a half day or a day and go look at things, and I couldn't agree with you more. I think we need to do it. Those are open to the public. I think it's healthy for the public. They can go see a $16 million fish hatchery shut down. They can see what it looks like. They can see what a rearing station looks like that needs major repairs. They can see what's meant when we're talking about impacts on the to springs of habitat degradation and things of that nature. And we can, you can actually go out and see those things. And I couldn't agree more. I think we do need to do it. It comes with a bigger commitment. You got to take an extra day to go do it. And I've always been willing to do that. I get a lot out of it, and I'd be more than willing to do it. To concerns that that Patrick brought up, I'm hoping that most of these concerns are brought on by the fact that our committees have really impacted the budget. I think that's one of the biggest things, and I'm hoping that some of that is nearing a point where we can head a different direction with some of that. I don't know if we'll ever get around it completely, but one of the suggestions is if we're going to continue to use our committees, maybe we need to go back to three commissioner committees, gather the input, which is the purpose of it, and having representation on there has caused us a lot of grief. We're criticized heavily for it, and everywhere we've done it, and maybe we need to just get away from that. Organize those with our commission meetings so that we're minimizing travel and staffed areas. The problem with that is that you can't make recommendations to the commission because the cabs are going to miss out because of the cab process. All these things, they're all interconnected, and this is why things are expensive, is because we have a lot of things to check on. We want to make sure that the public has representation. We want to make sure that we get all the input. We got to make sure that it rolls through the cabs. We got to make sure that we get our notices out and for our commission meetings, and all those things come at a cost. And so I think that some of it is easily resolved. I am concerned if we do add on additional days, which for handling committee type work on the commission, we are paid a per diem. At least that's available to us. When we're on these committees and flying around all over, we don't get that. And so there could be additional costs in that sense. So I bring those things up as points for me. I'm all for meeting out in the rurals. Matter of fact, I was going to make comment on one of them for 2015. I think we should change it and go further east. But anyway, those are some of my thoughts on it.
Commissioner Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with the previous commissioners in their comments, and I think that coming from a rural community, we see services dwindling all the time in the name of cost-saving opportunities. And we learn to live with that. If we want to get, if we want something done, like out at the ranch where we live, we know there's going to be additional cost to get that done. With that said, I think that sometimes we get to try to saving money and making things more convenient and making things better, and we lose the aspect of getting to know the people, like Chairman Rob was mentioning, in these rural communities. In fact, we talked about the committee meetings and maybe not having committee meetings in the rural areas. I've talked to Elko County cab members that really appreciated the trapping committee coming up to that part of the state so that you could look at them face to face and they could state their points on a face-to-face basis, which was more meaningful to them. In fact, the suggestion that I heard was that they need to have a bear committee meeting in Elko County. And so earlier today, we heard about in the survey about percentages of people that wanted to become more involved in the cabs. And I think that if we went down the road of having the meetings, say just in Vegas and in Reno, we would lose the people that live in the outlying areas and their involvement in this process.
Commissioner Drew?
I guess I tend to agree. I find a lot of value in traveling to these locations. I think it does boost our attendance and interest. I guess in an ideal world, from an efficiency standpoint, closing down to 2 locations makes things a hell of a lot easier. But I'm not completely convinced that it gets us where we need to be. And so, Patrick, I guess my question to you is you had mentioned, now that we're doing video conferencing, there's kind of an expectation of that level of public engagement. Is that getting us crosswise from an open meeting law standpoint not to have video conferencing? Because my thought is, if we're going to be in a rural area and we don't think there's a video conferencing capability, then maybe what we need to do is add that to our meeting schedule and indicate which meetings will be video conference and which ones will not. And that way everyone has a very clear expectation as to where you could go to Reno or Reno or Las Vegas or Elko and get on the video conference, and if you're interested in a certain meeting, which ones you may need to plan to travel to. And I think that would help increase our communications from that standpoint. But I just want to make sure you had mentioned that expectation factor, that if we do that, we're not putting ourselves in some sort of issue with the open meeting law.
For the record, Patrick Case, definitely does not create an issue with the open meeting law. The dad can correct me if I'm wrong, but I approach this as I kind of develop my talking points from an assumption that you would want that you would want to continue video conferencing. We've opened that door. That's the only reason I went there. If you desire to continue at rural meetings, we can certainly do that. We just wouldn't be able to video conferencing them. And if you go in knowing that, and we operate that way, I don't see any problem with that at all. That's really not an issue. And I did want to make sure that you all understood that trying to offer video conferencing for the committee meetings would just really be an untenable burden, and that we really struggle with. And if I could just comment on Commissioner McNich's comments about the committees. From our perspective, it's not so much about the makeup of the committees or whether or not they're in conjunction with a meeting. It's that each one of them has its own separate sets of public meeting notice and minutes and all of that. The administrative burden is extreme. Yes, commissioners get paid for commission meetings, but it's a nominal sum. It doesn't really amount to much as compared to the overtime that our clerical staff have in trying to set up everything for the meeting and to do the back work on the meetings. That's where the burden is to us. And it costs a heck of a lot more than it costs for commissioner pay to have an extra day or even a couple extra commission meetings.
I'm thinking back to Commissioner Morris' comment about the committee meeting we held in Elko. And we had 70+ people at the committee meeting in Elko, and there's a couple of gentlemen in this room that traveled clear from Reno to attend that committee meeting. I can recall in that committee meeting, Wells, a couple of people from Ely, a couple of people from Eureka, Battle Mountain, Carlin. We captured that whole portion of the state by being there. It's not just Elko we had an impact on. It was all the surrounding communities. So, I mean, I just in that one meeting, I saw tremendous value. So, Commissioner McNich.
And, Patrick, I am sensitive to the cost and the amount of work. Having the communication with Jody and Joanne, and once in a while with Suzanne, but, man, I'll tell you, doing these meetings, it's brutal. It's brutal to put together 60 pages of meetings, of minutes, or 30 pages, or whatever it is that you're doing. It takes hours. You don't just sit there and type verbatim. That's the easy way to do it, and it takes a ton of time. You got to listen to that thing 6 times to get it. If you're doing it by capturing and paraphrasing, you probably listen to it 10 times. So I'm real sensitive to that, and I'm hoping that it's just a function of where we're at in processes and in time, and I'm hoping that it does back off and that things get a little better in that sense. I don't know. I'm going to have a senior moment. I had another thought I was going to share, but I can't now. That's all right.
Commissioner
I'm gray
Lane.
enough to have a senior moment, but I'm not there yet.
Okay, Commissioner Lane.
I don't want to try to push the point, but I guess this is my issue. So we have 9 people on this commission, 3 of them are from Southern Nevada, and they are representing over 2 million people. And so when you go to a rural area that doesn't have video conferencing, you're basically, yes, there may be only 4 people there today, but I would remind you, last meeting there were only 2 people. So I think what you'll see over time is you're going to get a lot more people involved in the video conferencing once they know it's available. This is still relatively new. And if that's what you want to do, and I understand because most of the commission is from rural areas, but my suggestion would be that you take a real close look at some of the issues that you're discussing and maybe revise your schedule to some extent so that the bigger areas like, the big game status report and quota setting, well, that's in Reno. But you're going to revise upland game and fur bearer seasons and limits, and that's in Eureka. So, it seems to me if that's what you want to do, then maybe what we need to do is to look at what we're proposing to do at those areas and maybe not have some of the bigger issues in the rural areas. I'm just trying to figure out some way to make sure that, because when you have video conferencing, yes, you don't have face-to-face, but the important issue is you allow more people to participate. And I think I sat on the other side not too long ago, and I can tell you, I used to get so frustrated because I would only be able to attend the 3 commission meetings that were held in Las Vegas. And so there was this whole other massive business that I didn't even know about or wasn't able to participate in. And I think that's a huge issue when you talk about trying to get people involved in this process. You want them, if you want them involved in this process, you want them involved year-round, not in a meeting here or a meeting there, so they really don't understand the process that's going on.
Commissioner Macbeth.
I'm from Las Vegas, obviously, and I'll tell you that I would never support moving our commission meetings out of the rural counties that we've had. I think that's an invaluable thing. I'm not going to go on about that issue because I think everybody's discussed that very well. The one issue that I want to talk about is the committees. And I think it's a real danger to analyze this from a cost standpoint and how much administrative burden it is. Because when you do that, you're comparing just time to dollars, and you're not thinking about what the benefits that were derived from those meetings. The issue is that the commission as a body whole cannot consider all of these issues in the depth that we do when we divide the burdens and create committees and go out and take the public input that we have on some of these very, very tough, controversial issues. Bear trapping, predation management just come to mind. And the benefits that come from that, when we can point to the efforts that we've gone to and who we've reached out to, and we can walk in front of the legislature and say what we've done, and we can keep, our interests, and push our interests and show the legislature and the public how deeply we've got into some of these issues and taken comments. Comparing time and cost to the benefits that we're going to get, that we have gotten on some of these issues and trapping and bears and predator issues and any of these other issues we've dealt with on these committees have an intangible value that that you just got to think. If we did not have the extent of the meetings that we've had on trapping and bears, where would we be? And could the commission have ever done that as a body whole? And I don't think we could. And so I think it's dangerous to analyze this in strictly time and cost. I think that you really do need to think of the benefits, and we may just need to find a way to get funds to be able to do it. I am not in support of doing video conferencing on, rural areas if we just don't have the capability to do it, or on committee meetings. Part of the process is that, if you have a passionate interest in an issue, you need to show up, and that's just the way it is. And so, anyway, that's my thought, and I just hope that we don't, do away with something that we put in place that has dealt with the skyrocketing public interest that we've had in some of these issues, because I think that would be short-sighted.
All right, so my framework again for a moment there. I'm thinking if we had a trapping issue today, this room would be very full, much fuller than it is now. And I can assure you that room in Vegas right there and the room up in Elko would be grossly insufficient to address that whole issue. And that's one of the challenges we're going to have with video conferencing. I'm not against video conferencing, but I'm saying that it seems easy now because we have large, 6 people in 2 different places. If we were trying to finalize our trapping stuff, there'd probably be 65 or 70 people in Elko, and I imagine if all the people that showed up in Vegas that did last time, what was our count, Joanne? Close to 120 plus?
It was a lot.
Yeah. So my point is that it would be, it's going to create challenges by itself. I mean, we could be here all day listening to testimony on certain issues. That's fine. It's not a problem, but I think we have to understand what we're headed to. It's going to happen. It's just a function of time.
Okay, any other discussion? We've been at this discussion so long, I forgot whether we've done the public comment or not, but I believe we haven't, so, any public comment on this? Mr. Bowles?
Lots.
For the record, Fred Bolts. A few observations, if I may. First, when people choose, and the emphasis is on choose, to live in rural areas, they give up conveniences of being in the city. And to try and recreate city conveniences in a rural area just really doesn't compute. We have telephones today, we have emails. Maybe there aren't the dinner meetings or the hall conversations, but if somebody wants to get in touch with somebody else, there are mechanisms to do that outside of the meeting. So I would submit to you, it's not critical that rural people are not going to be frozen out of the process. There are ways to communicate, as Commissioner McPhee said, if somebody is really interested in a subject. One of the questions that was brought up was, should small towns continue to be commission sites if no video conferencing capabilities are available? What I didn't hear in Deputy Director Cates's presentation was any effort to talk to private companies in those towns, typically mining companies, about whether they had any video conferencing equipment that could be used so that you could still meet your self-described mandate of wanting to be out in the rural areas. But with that said, I would also encourage the town hall concept, which I would heartily support, that not the whole commission, but maybe 2 or 3 of you go out to whatever areas on whatever basis you're comfortable with and meet with residents, ranchers, farmers, whomever might come up to that meeting to discuss what's on their mind. And you bring that back and report it to the commission, just as you would having a committee meeting and the chair of the committee reports back to the full commission, because not all 9 of you are there. Thank you.
Before you sit down, Mr. Bowles, I usually don't do this, but you made a comment that people choose to live in the rurals. My family didn't choose to live in a rural. I think when my family came to Nevada, Reno was considered rural. Las Vegas didn't really exist. So we didn't choose to be there. That's where our families are from. And that's the way Nevada is, and maybe you don't understand that.
Well, I would just react to that by saying the following. Apparently you moved to Reno at some point for whatever reasons. Your family made that choice. they did not choose to stay in Tonopah, from what you've said about yourself. So that is a choice. And your family, whenever they came, whatever generation, they chose to go to Tonopah and not someplace else in the country. So that is a choice I would have to submit. Thank you.
Okay, who's next? Mr. Dixon.
For the record, Paul Dixon, Chairman of Clark County CAB. 2 points that I wanted to make. The first point is every year when we set our meeting schedule in Vegas, we always set our waterfall meeting in Overton. When I go to Overton, I end up with anywhere between 50 and 100 people in the room, community building there. Several years ago, we had the sportsmen, the dog trainers, and the hunters fighting. And we had almost knocked down drag out between sportsmen, but we had resolved. Had we not had that meeting in Overton, that would have never gotten resolved. It would still be a problem today. That problem has been, by and large, cured. It is very important, in my viewpoint, and I couldn't agree with the comments that were said up there more, that we spend some time out there. I think part of it is that when we go out to Overton, we also spend extra time to go out and tour the facilities there besides the thing, and I'll come back to Commissioner Lane's point. If we're going to go to one of these rural areas, the meeting should be 3 days. And one of the days should be learning that area and some of their issues and meeting the people, kind of the town hall thing that was brought up by Patrick. The other thing is that when you looked today at the very first topic we had on the agenda, which was the survey results, it showed that very few people understand cabs exist, very few people participate in cabs. We keep talking about Clark County Cab representing 2 million people. Based on that survey, I don't represent 2 million people, and neither do the people that come to my cab represent the 2 million people that don't hunt or buy fishing licenses. We represent a very thing. So anything we can do to cause education, greater education, I think if by setting up video conferencing, we're going to get that. The problem is we're going to get to a point where it's going to be hard, as Commissioner McNish said, to run a meeting because you're going to have tons of people that want to comment. As we start to educate beyond what we have and make ourselves more known, you're going to have a lot more people that are going to want to weigh in. Some of them that we like, and some of them that we are going to be in education that we're going to have to do. So it's a two-edged sword. But I think getting out to the rural areas and spending that time, at least for Clark, I try to do a meeting in Henderson and Vegas and then one out in thing. And just so I move, even in Clark County, having one in downtown and going out to Henderson 30 miles away makes a big difference to who participates in that meeting. So my thoughts. Thanks.
Gil and then Mr. Strozzi.
Gil Yannick, for the record, my personal comments on this issue. Way back when I first got involved with the County Advisory Board, my fellow members thought it would be a good idea for this newcomer to the state to get familiar with the state and had me assigned to attend all the rural meetings. And I couldn't thank them. Looking back, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I mean, just all the comments that you made are so very true about, these are the people who made the state what it is. I guess maybe 2/3 or more of the people living in Las Vegas are not from Nevada. I think that my experiences in Eureka and Ely and Elko, and driving through places like Austin, Tonopah, I mean, that's what educated me about the state, and I'd hate to lose. And I think about some of the dinners I had in those small towns with the local cab members or just members of the public, and get their input and what their concerns are and a perspective of the issue from their standpoint, not from us sitting here in Reno or Las Vegas or someplace else. You can't get that in a video conference. Now, the other side of the coin being a bean counter type, you know, yeah, you look to save where you can, because when you look at the budget and the amount of money that we get from the general fund plus what we get from various federal agencies and grants and things like that, you make it all do. But at the same time, what you're expressing, what I heard expressing by a good number of you, I think is the real crux of the matter. We owe it to them to be there in their backyard and see the issues firsthand that they're going through. And that's the only way you can do your job.
Kevin, and who else?
Kevin Strozzi, Nye County Advisory Board. I'm the chairman of the Nye County Advisory Board, and I'm a Tonopah mucker, just like Chairman Rob. And I do choose to live in Tonopah. I think it would be a huge mistake, just like you guys are talking about, to not visit these small communities. I have an extremely hard time getting people to my CAB meetings. And just like your mule deer survey showed earlier, a lot of people don't even know what they are. You know, I advertise and I email and I do everything, you know, and people just don't show up. I got a lot of people that are expecting the commission to come down, a lot of people I've talked to. I'm trying to get as many people to that Tonopah Commission meeting as I can so they can learn how this whole thing goes. You got a lot of the Esmeralda County is extremely rural and low population, but they have an extremely important part of our wildlife. You know, especially sheep. And those guys, you know, a lot of those guys are ranchers and farmers and they don't get up to Reno. But I promise you they'll be at that Tonopah, well, I don't promise you, but I can bet they'll be at that Tonopah meeting. I just think it would be a huge mistake to not travel to these rural communities.
Brad and then Sean. And then Bob.
MTW. Brad Johnston for the record. I'd just point out that if you look at the survey data, 49.4% of the respondents to that mule deer survey were outside of Clark and Washoe counties. So that is a huge number, it's half. And the other important thing is the public always has an opportunity to provide their input on any issue that comes before this commission without really leaving their home or their home county. They can do it via email, they live in Reno or Las Vegas, they can attend their CAB meeting, and like the other CABs, we move our CAB meeting around too. Between Yerington, Silver Springs, and Fernley, Lyon County is by no means geographically the largest big county in Nevada, but it's still pretty good size and a pretty good drive, and we try to target our meetings like for the big game quota to the population center in Fernley to get more input, and I would hate to lose the rural county meetings, so thank you.
Sean? And Bob?
Sean Shea, Washoe County. Actually, I think all these guys have already said it. I just wanted to say that we support the video conferencing all the way, but we did not support, or actually, we did not believe that all the cities should be the same. All the towns should be the same. You should still go to the rural counties and talk to them. And to be honest with you, it doesn't matter where you live. I mean, everybody's got to choose where they want to live, so it doesn't matter. So.
Who's after Bob?
Thank you for the opportunity. I can't speak for Douglas Cab because we didn't have this conversation. So I would like to speak for myself. I don't want to make it real long. I support everything that's been said. I think everybody's in support of you guys going all over the state. That's what you're here for. You represent the state. You're all from different areas. And it's important for us as CAB members to go out and see those sites and visit with all of those people that live in those areas too. Maybe go out and visit Pete or go over and visit Corey Lytle. I went to Vegas 5 years ago. I got to see the shooting park in its infant stage. It'd be nice this September if you guys would do it again so I can see it, how it is now. So, you know, it's important for sure. You're on the right track. Thank you.
Dr. Molly?
I'm sorry.
TW. Mr. Chairman, Don Moldy-Reno. Hey, I like to go to the rural areas. And I'm retired and I can afford it. And so I'll be there. But there are folks on my side of the island, Las Vegas, who can't or don't or choose not to and appreciate the video conferencing that's available. So it seems to me it's not an either or thing. It's how this archaic, inflexible management system that's developed over decades might get modified. And I thank Mr. Cates for doing really the best analytical dissection of not only the video conferencing issue, but why this system is so inflexible, and suggesting that maybe looking at alternatives, everything from committees to commissions to town halls to whatever, ought to be looked at. And if you ever get done with bears and trapping, which doesn't look reasonable here, given what we've got going on, I think his contribution, Mr. Cade's contribution may be to have stimulated the first discussion I've ever heard in these halls about how you might remodel your system so you can do a better job with shrinking resources. And I'm all in favor of that, and I'll see you in Tonopah.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is T.W. Landis. I'm the media specialist for Truckee Meadows Community College, Nevada's community college. I know not about this university system that you speak of, because it's not. It belongs to NSHE, Nevada System of Higher Education. And I just wanted to clarify a couple of points here for y'all. Number one, we have over 200 sites throughout the state. You're just looking at 2 of them right now. If we had to push it, we could go up to 130 at once. Okay? This is not, as previously mentioned, an either or. This is an and. Okay? And quite frankly, the way it seems to me is that nobody's out looking at the hinterlands. Nobody's having sidebar conversations right now because they're in a meeting. But I know one thing, and I'm a good Nevadan. I love Nevada. I'm a small town hick from Bishop, but they found out in 1967 that somebody got lazy with the survey and called the ridge of the White Mountains the border, and it's really not. It's at the foothill of the Sierras. So I like to think of myself as being a good Nevadan. I love Nevada. I love Nevada. And I want the best for Nevada, and I'm in a position to help Nevada here. One of the things that I would say, I know Nevadans love barbecues, and I would offer for your consideration a whistle stop. You guys go get on a tour bus, and you chug out to Ely, and you chug out to Searchlight or what have you, and go have a barbecue and meet face to face and spend that time instead of passing somebody on the way to the restroom. There's a lot of options on the table here for success. Many, many options. I've been with this system, with the teleconferencing system since 1994. And there's answers to every problem that might be presented. This is a wonderful tool for y'all. Our friends out there in Elko, they've had the chance to attend the meeting today. Our friends in Vegas, and we've got friends that we haven't talked to yet in Battle Mountain, Searchlight, Jackpot. You know, I just offer that think a little bit outside. This is not an either or, this is an and it's a wonderful plus for our state. And we thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your help with this, and thank you for your sweatshirt. I really appreciate that.
Ask him some questions.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson, can you back up there? Can you answer some questions?
Me?
Yeah. Tell us about the 200 sites, because I've been on this commission 2 years and I've been told over and over and over and over that this was an impossibility to have teleconferences, a big deal to get on, and there was only a couple buildings, and it's taken us this long to get it. Fill me in on what we've been missing.
Okay, this network, okay, and it's a locked network. This is not using over-the-wire stuff. This is a locked network.
And who owns the networks?
NSHE, Nevada System of Higher Education, and it is operated by SCS Systems Computing Services. They have 2 locations. Administratively, one is over at UNR campus. They are not part of UNR, but they are. Anyway, they're right across, they're kind of in that quadrant by the museum and the parking guide. And there's one down in Las Vegas over there on Paradise Road. Okay, they are tasked by NSHE to operate and maintain the video and data domain. Okay, now, the whole point of this system was to draw the state together. And we're going back many years, when my hair was a different color, to 92, when the state assembly funded SB 214, I think it was, at the time, and that provided the seed money to get the hardware going, okay? And it was designed for us to reach, for example, we have a ophthalmology class that our students here in Reno get from Vegas. We don't need to hire an ophthalmology teacher here, okay? We had some people out in Battle Mountain that wanted early childhood education classes. They were not denied that class because of their location. See, that's the cool thing about this. A classroom of one is viable. A classroom of one in this setting is not. So we get to put all these people on in addition to our traditional students. So now I'll take Elko just for a quick second. There's 5 sites in Elko, okay? Great Basin has 3, and Unsum, University of Nevada Medical School has 2 at the hospital.
Where's that one at? Is that at the college?
This one's in Vegas. You Vegas guys, are you at Summerlin?
No, they're Charleston campus.
Charleston? Okay. Their Charleston campus, which is part of College of Southern Nevada.
Yeah,
Okay.
Torrey Pines in Charleston.
And we haven't touched on UNLV, or we haven't touched on Henderson. So there's lots of rooms down there, okay, to be had in Vegas. This particular room that you're in, this is a darn nice one. But 2 things happen. See, now our friends out at Elko, they're in what I would call more of a learning room, okay, where they do not present to us. They have the ability, they have the ability to present from there, but it's not as easy as it is here. This is more of a teaching room, okay?
So like Battle Mountain, you mentioned that. Where's it at in Battle Mountain?
It's at the community center out there. Down the street from the fireworks joint. I've been out there, and it's so easy to get lost in Battle Mountain when you're from Bishop.
Be interesting to have that list of 200 locations for us to
You
take a
can
look at.
find that list at SES, Systems Computing Services, .nv.org, .gov,
Don't go so fast.
SES, Systems Computing Services. I'm not sure how they end their
I'll figure it out.
URL there. But, one of the other things that can happen too is that we can take what's going on here and we can stream it onto the internet. So if you've got somebody sitting way out in White Pine County, they can join the meeting as well.
Right.
Okay? And we would use the technology there more akin to, say, like the chat line, for public comment, provided that they're kind of quick.
Right, they got a camera in their
Yeah.
computer. Right. Thank you, very informative, appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your service. And lady.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Check Vegas.
Oh, yeah. Jeremy reminded me to check Reno and Vegas to see if they had public comment there since we're talking about video conferencing.
Yes, Chairman. Jana. Okay, Jana Wright.
Chairman Rob, this is Jana Wright. Appreciate the conversation on video conferencing. I've been crying and whining for it for probably over a year, and I definitely support video conferencing. In the past, I had to wait 2 weeks to review the videos of the commission meetings to understand what you had talked about. I understand that I can send emails, but it's a big deal to me to be interacting with you in real time. Even if I had video streaming, it would be better than nothing. So I hope that the commission will consider continuing video conferencing. And then if you're going to continue to go to the rurals, look at an opportunity to video conference, or see how many people actually come from the rurals to attend your meetings to see if your outreach is appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anybody else wants to do this?
No, thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Anybody in Elko have any comments?
No comments from Elko.
All right, thank you. One last time, any public comment, Reno? I'll bring it back to the commission. It is an action item. We have calendar set, unless we're gonna change something. Okay, I'm not seeing any motions.
I guess the only recommendation I would make at this point is just to add on our meeting schedule which locations will have video conference capability, and I don't know that we need a motion to do that, just so everyone's clear at this point.
Mr. Chairman, also something that Mr. Cates alluded to earlier is that we could potentially be bumped from some of these locations. So may include that as part of the disclaimer as well, that it'll be available if it's available, but if we're bumped, there's no guarantee on it.
Okay. Anything else?
Let me understand this right, Jack. Are all these locations for the next couple years scheduled, video conference, could be available at all these sites?
For next year, no.
My understanding is at this point, not Fallon and not Eureka.
And how about if we use the system that we're using here today with?
My understanding is a lot of those facilities don't have a room big enough to accommodate a meeting. Okay, any other discussion? Commissioner Moran?
One other point that I'd like to make too is of all of our meetings, we generally only have two in the rural areas. That's what our schedule shows, correct?
Correct.
So it's not like we're going to the rural areas the majority of the time. The majority of the time, we're going to either Vegas or Reno.
Commissioner McNinch?
And I'll point out that it used to be 3. 3 years.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'll just throw my 2 cents in like I have all day. I agree with we need to continue going to the rurals. I'm a typical Nevadan, I'm sure. My dad was born in Nevada, I was born in Nevada, my son was born in Nevada. My grandfather was born in Tuscarora. My great-grandfather was born in Carson City. My mother was born in Italy and came here and settled in Cara. Sure, I chose to live in Las Vegas as a young child when I was taken down by my dad because the state highway department moved him down there. But I know one thing, me as a Las Vegan, I sure gone to those rural areas and used their hunting and fishing grounds my whole life, all 58 years. Trampled through their towns, drank in their bars, stayed in their hotels, got groceries and did all that. I think they deserve every bit of effort that we can as a commission to go out there and visit them. But I will tell you, sitting on this commission, I agree with Karen 100%. It's a little frustrating. I thought this would be a lot more fun.
We all did, Bill.
Maybe I'm the 8. I thought being sheriff was a tough job. It's a pretty piece of cake compared to this. I can recall in the last 2 years, one time we've had an opportunity to go see something, and I was in Ely. We were talking about it when we went to Ely. Karen, Mike, and I, who else was with Mike's girlfriend? We jumped in my truck and we went out and saw Cummins Lake, Success Loop, and really got out there. And I think that's an important aspect to this commission. And it seems like we deal with a lot of minutia in these meetings and spend a lot of time that I would trust Tony and his staff. It would be more like an oversight. And I think we get a little too deep into the weeds and missing the bigger picture sometimes. And I think there's nothing like getting out there and seeing real issues or real problems in person. And we all got limited time, I get it. But if I were to make a suggestion, is that going forward, whoever the next chairman is, whether it's Jeremy or whoever, that maybe we reconsider our 2-day schedule and build in half a day. When we do go to a rural area, that we go see something and we visit an issue and maybe get a little bit out of the weeds and trust Tony and his staff, because I think there's some real professionals in this organization. I think we provide just a little bit too much oversight. And I just did a whole, had a completely different type of career in a large organization. It seemed like we did it that way, and it seemed to work a little bit better. And that's my 2 cents. But I would never go for leaving these rurals without our participation and allowing them to come to a meeting once every 2 or 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we leave this topic, the way I've seen it, the whole time I've been a commissioner, I represent the people, but I also represent the wildlife stand. I'm the wildlife commissioner before I'm a people commissioner. And, we might not, spend as much time on these commission meetings seeing the things out in Nevada that we should, but I know I spend an awful lot of time on my personal time looking at these issues, talking to people in these rural towns. I spent a whole afternoon in sports world in Ely. I mean, that's part of being a commissioner, seeing these roads, not only during commission times, but during other times, so. All right, anybody else have anything? All right, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Agenda item number 13, Commission General Regulation Workshop. Commission General Regulation 445, black powder definition, LCP file number R045-14. Mr. Dankowski.
Thank you. Good afternoon. For the record, Dankowski, Peak Game Warden. Today I'm presenting Commission General Regulation 445, which is the black powder definition, LCB file number R045-14. This is a result of a petition and related discussion that was heard and withdrawn at the Commission meeting held in Reno on December 6, 2013. At that time, the Commission directed Endo staff to look into the black powder substitute issue. Detailed conceptual and proposed language was discussed at the January 31st, 2014 Commission meeting in Las Vegas. And we're here today to workshop this regulation. You have the proposed language in your support material. The current regulation refers to two specific brand name black powder substitutes for muzzleloader only big game hunts. There are over 100 brand name black powder substitutes on the market. Having only two specific brand names within the language is confusing to sportsmen. Removing name brand black powder substitutes should reduce confusion on the type of powders allowed during the muzzleloader only big game hunts. So this CGR proposes language to amend NAC 503142 by simply removing the name brand black powder substitute language and therefore allowing for the use of all black powder substitutes. And I am available for any questions.
Commissioner Macbeth?
Okay, just so for the record, that means that Blackhorn 209 is a black powder substitute.
Correct.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll go out to public comment. Do we have any public comment in Elko?
No comment in Elko.
All right, any public comment in Las Vegas?
No, thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment in Reno? What did we worry out on the last agenda item? Nobody wants to talk?
Ready to go. Brad Johnston, Lyon County Cap. I don't know much about black powder substitute. I own a muzzle loader. I've never fired a muzzle loader. But when this issue first came up, the public input was at our CAB meeting that the muzzle loader season was set as a distinct from the other weapon classes, and there was this concern expressed about, lack of a better term, technological creep. And the public was opposed to additional black powder substitutes being included in this regulation, and there was a proposal for the addition of Blackhorn 209. And so the same public input was now that this proposed change would allow anything that's labeled as a black powder substitute to be used as a propellant. And for that reason, for the reasons we had discussions back, I think it was at the Reno meeting in December, when the public input was opposed to allowing Blackhorn 209, they're opposed to this change because they're concerned is what is a black powder substitute and what does that ultimately lead to when it comes to the muzzleloader season? Is it going to be closer and closer to I don't see it getting closer and closer to a rifle or any illegal weapon, but I understand what people were saying when it was initially established. And as the technology advances and advances and advances, where do we draw the line on what's going to be allowed during the muzzleloader hunt? And for that, during the muzzleloader season, and for that reason, our board, after public input, is opposed to this change, as it just allows anything that's labeled as a black powder substitute to be used. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Strozzi and then Gil.
Kevin Strozzi, Nye County Cab. I have one quick thing just to speak to that. I have some personal experience with Blackhorn 209. And as far as it being, you know, like you were just talking about technology creep, the Blackhorn 209 in itself, I chronograph, I shoot a lot of muzzleloader, I chronograph my round. Blackhorn 209 didn't give any significant velocity advantage. It's a little bit easier to clean. And that was it. I don't think any of the black powder substitutes, I don't think we have to worry about that technology creep. In order to have to worry about that, people would have to be shooting smokeless powder in their muzzleloaders. There's not many of them that can handle that. So I don't think we have to worry about that.
Gil and then Rex.
Gil Yannick speaking for myself. Having hunted black powder and used all kinds of different substitutes, it's almost like saying, why don't we regulate when we reload our hunting loads for any rifle season, why don't we start trying to control what we can reload with? I mean, I don't know how it started, but I think changing the regulation like we're proposing today makes life easy for everybody. Thank you.
Rex.
Rex Flowers, representing Washoe County. We voted to support this regulation. We've had it come before us several times. One of our past board members actually tried to do this initially, get this through. As far as technology goes, when I first started hunting, shooting archery was a longbow and a recurve. There was no such thing as a compound. Today we have guys shooting rifles that are 700 and 800 yards and really accurate. So, you know, originally people were shooting 200 and 300 yards. So everything has advanced technologically. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission. Any questions? Mr. Dankowski?
Nothing further from me. Any questions for me?
Anybody want to throw a motion?
Workshop.
Oh, it's workshop, I'm so sorry. That's tomorrow we get to do that.
You're tired.
I wanted to get an agenda item out of the way tomorrow.
First, second.
Thank you.
Within 5 minutes. I like it.
All right, okay. We'll close that agenda item. We'll move on to agenda item number 14, public comment period. Elko, any public comment?
No, sir.
Hey, thank you for your participation today. Clark County or Las Vegas have any?
No, Chairman, thank you.
Thank you for your participation today. In Reno, who do we have? Mr. Cook and Gil.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bob Cook from Douglas County. I'm speaking for myself, not for the CAB. I have two quick items I'd just like to bring up for your consideration. They're not on the agenda today. One of them is when you talk about e-licenses and getting licensed over the counter like Big Five, Walmart, and all of the other companies that offer them. When you put in for a state duck stamp, and in the future, if you were to put in for federal, the problem that I personally have is that at the end of the year, you only have a month during the month of March to request your state duck stamp. If you wanted to save the stamp, to have the department send you the physical stamp, which I like to collect stamps. I missed it 2 years ago by a week. I didn't get that stamp. I think it might possibly be easier for people like me if there was a box when you went to somewhere and got your license and they said, do you want the Nevada state stamp? I say yes. And then they would maybe have another box that said, do you want them to send it to you? Yes. Then there would be no confusion. I would get it. I wouldn't have to worry about forgetting. that maybe you might consider doing that for the federal if and when that time comes. My second one is that registering my boat. Last year, I got the EIS stamp, it wasn't required. This year it is. I registered my boat, I bought the stamp. I got charged for 2 administration fees, 1 transaction on my credit card, 1 transaction online as far as I was concerned. And so I don't think that's fair. I just, for whatever it's worth.
Okay, thank you. Gil? And then Dr. Molding.
For the record, Gil Yannick speaking for myself. The comment when we went over the survey, the Hunter survey, about the number of people who either knew about the cab but never went to the meetings, or the people who didn't really know what the cab situation was. I kind of think maybe that's something that our Conservation Education Division might want to take on for a little publicity campaign to the general public, as well to the people who have hunting and fishing licenses and trapping licenses or whatever. I'm sure the trappers know about it, but a lot of people may not know about it. Maybe, Teresa might take on that task about doing a campaign to get people a little more knowledgeable about how the system works. And either some literature or pamphlet or something that they can pick up at the sporting goods stores, the Walmarts, when they get their licenses, to acquaint them with the whole breadth of what is involved in promulgating regulations and laws, and where, if they have some issue they don't like or they want something changed, how they go about doing it. I mean, we all know it because we live, eat, and breathe it, but a lot of the public just kind of knows they know how to get a license, or they know how to get a fishing license, and where the material is, but that's maybe the extent of it. So we might get a lot more participation at a lot of the CABS meetings if we had some additional publications going out besides what, some of the, we're required to post them in public places, but not everybody in the community visits those public places, and the CABs don't have a budget to get an ad in the newspapers, and some newspapers find space to put the article about the CAB meeting and when it is and where it is, but they don't all have to do it. It's on a space available, and just a suggestion.
Dr. Molding, and who else after Dr. Molding? Fred Johnson and Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Chairman, Don Mulder-Green. Follow up to what Gil just mentioned, it seems to me you could make the other argument for cabs, which is they don't do anything. Nobody knows about them. They cost a lot of money. The same noisy group of people on our side and their side show up. They claim we don't represent anybody. They claim they talk to sportsmen all the time. Looks like most of the mule deer guys don't even know who they are. So, in keeping with Mr. Tate's precedent that he said already, that maybe you ought to take a look at remodeling this system. And I'm kind of serious about this. I think you ought to take a look at whether you should dump cans, or whether there's some other mechanism which would be more reflective of not only the non-hunting, non-trapping public, but sportsmen. It was quite astonishing. I mean, I've always suspected those kind of numbers, but I never had the data. Now I do. I'll be mentioning it frequently. The other thing is that there appears to be a considerable amount of lack of knowledge among mule deer hunters about predators. 70% think bobcats, mountain lions, and coyotes have something to do with the flat mule deer numbers we've had in this state for a decade. And we all know that's not the case. So if there's any education to be done, you ought to turn a little of your energy into that one as well. Thanks.
Brad, and then Mr. Volz.
Brad Johnson, Lane County. For the record, one of the things I needed to report that we took up at our CAB meeting is potential increases in tag and license fees. I believe that was something that we were to vet to the public. We had some discussions on that. The public was receptive to increases in tag, license, and stamp fees, understanding that the cost of doing business for the department is increasing. We haven't had an increase in quite some time. There was concern, however, how any fee increases could impact disproportionately families with children or seniors. And so what we thought is potentially look at increasing license tag and stamp fees for people aged 18 to 64. That way, families with 2 or 3 children wouldn't feel as much of an impact, seniors wouldn't feel the impact, but hopefully address the revenue needs of the department. Public recognize that without increase of these fees, the money's not going to get to the department to fund the operation. So it was a pretty well received by the public, that something that could be considered and acceptable to the general public. Thank you.
I'm gonna have to find out who suggested above 18, because I have a 19 and 23-year-old that I still applied for this year. I didn't fill out her application, but I know I paid for it. Mr. Volz?
For the record, Fred Volz. For some time, the commission has claimed it doesn't know and has no reasonable way of knowing how state residents want public wildlife treated. Is it going to be killed for transitory fun and personal profit, human-wildlife coexistence with minimal interference by people, or some hybrid balance of the two? Wildlife killing is the ultimate target behind virtually every policy and action this body takes. Our wildlife need fear the human predator far more than natural perils and predators. It is tragically telling when government bodies invoke ignorance, lack of money, and lack of time as excuses why they can't take action, but somehow find flimsy justifications, money, and time when they have an untenable, unjustified whim they wish to pursue. Remember, 2 of the primary charters of this body are to represent the interests of all state residents and protect wildlife. The state's wildlife largely lives on public lands and legally belongs to all state residents, not just the wildlife killers. Where are the good faith efforts to create wildlife policies reflective of all state residents' preferences, rather than effectively running a private hunting club with public funds? What a contradiction of reality and balanced policy making when $48,881, not the originally stated $25,000, was found to conduct a satisfaction survey of just department licensed mule deer killers. With only 638 survey respondents, the cost per respondent worked out to a whopping $76.62. What did we collectively learn? That people who are already killing mule deer want to continue to do so for any number of feel-good reasons, unrelated to any methodology employing the scientific method. Sound science, incessantly invoked as the supposed basis for commission decisions, has nothing to do with this study. Attaching 131 pages of subjective, visceral opinions from deer-killing respondents further fails to objectively enlighten any of us. When will this commission begin to determine what 98% of state residents want for their wildlife, rather than regarding just 2% of the state's population with hunting and trapping licenses as the only clients they need served? Where are the commission-sponsored surveys of the general populace, rather than statistically insignificant and unrepresentative microcosms of wildlife killers? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll be in recess. Oh, Dr. Dixon, you had something?
I really can't.
Move spread out. If I miss you, you gotta raise your hand and yell at me, because my peripheral vision isn't what it used to be.
You're wearing your hearing aids. Anyway, for the record, Paul Dixon speaking on behalf of myself. I can't allow Mr. Volz, who always waits to testify at the very end, be the last person to speak. He does not, and I repeat, does not represent the 98% of people who do not hold a hunting and fishing license. I have a wife, I have neighbors, I have friends who all do not hold hunting or fishing licenses, which believe he is a quack. And I will leave it there. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Seeing none, we're in recess till tomorrow morning, 8:30.